My name is Tomás Brogan. I run Oireas Historical Services. My role here is to create and build the physical mannequin displays for the 500th anniversary of the Battle of Knockavoe. What we have is a number of displays showing key characters, clothing and equipment from the period. The first display is Con Baca O'Neill, sitting on his chair, and he has his wife beside him. We know he's Con Baca because historically the Irish chiefs would have all carried a thing called a slat ban, or slat is the Irish word for rod and ban is white, and this would have been an ash rod stripped of its bark, and there were normally a straight short rod like a sceptre. You'll also see that he's carrying the great sword, which is a clave moor, which we can take out to show. You can see that this would be a two-handed sword, used for close-in combat. And when they're swung, you use the full length of the handle to get the power of the swing. You can see it's quite big. It's probably as tall as I am myself, and these would normally be carried by somebody of a taller stature than I am myself. He's sitting on a throne. He's got his sheepskins for his comfort. He's wearing his brat, which is the Irish cloak. He's wearing a chainmail neck guard, and he's wearing a padded linen jacket, which is red because he's of slightly higher status than the other people, so he's going to be able to afford to get his clothing dyed and things like that. On the ground beside him is a thing called a rondella, and this is a metal circular shield that's of Spanish origin, this particular one. You see that in the inside of it's lined with padding, straps, and then a carry sling. His left hand, he has what they call an Irish ring pommel sword. What's interesting, the Irish ring pommels are quite unique, and the fact that the pommel is hollow, and the guard, the quillion, is curved. I've noticed that the scabbard, which is made from leather, and the leather scabbard has fringe all the way around, and that is evident in images, contemporary images of the Irish with these fringed sheaths. Now, the idea, we assume that the idea behind these fringes is that when water soaks into the leather scabbard, capillary action will cause the water to come away from the scabbard and away from the sword and actually drip off the fringe on the scabbard itself. Also, I've noticed the shoes. These are what they call Lucas Type 5 shoes, and they're based on extant archaeological finds. The good lady herself is wearing what we call an onion hat, which, because of the heat, is kind of settled down a little bit, surrounded by linen, and it's tied under the neck. And again, these appear in contemporary images of the period. She again is wearing a brat, which is a heavy wool sheet, and it's edged with wool. So the next main character in the exhibition is the Galaglass. The Galaglass are professional heavy infantry, and these troops go back to the warrior culture. So they're like two main Galaglass could do a one-on-one battle, or they would fight in groups called sparths. This is the famous Galaglass axe. It is called a sparth. For his secondary weapon, he's got what they call a halflang, which is a sword of Scottish origin. Again, you'll see that the scabbard is leather, but this time there's only a fringe on the bottom of it. Again, they do appear in imagery. He carries his sidearm, which is a dagger, and he has a belt purse, which is what he would carry his money in, or his anything would have that's of value. Also, he has his beads, his rosary beads, tucked into his accaton, which is the padded jacket. In his left hand, he's holding his helmet, which is called a bassinet, and they appear on a lot of the monastic or a lot of the tombstones. That's where you get a lot of the imagery of these galaglass. Now, galaglass also would wear chainmail shirts, but the Battle of Knockavoe is at night, and they're trying to covertly get into O'Neill's camp. So they're not going to be wearing chainmail, because if you imagine 400 or 500 or 600 men moving through rough ground with chainmail, and they're close together, they're going to make noise. So it's more than likely that they would have ditched their chainmail and they would have stuck with the accatons with the soft armour. Again, he's wearing a brat. More than likely, when they'll be moving into battle, into hand-to-hand fighting, they would have dumped the brat because it'd just get in their way. You'll notice also that he's actually bald rather than got hair, and this would be, even modern armies, short hair is just easier to keep, and he would have worn maybe a wool hat or something underneath his helmet for padding. But there's no hard, fast rules on hairstyles or beards, we think, at the time. So what we have here is a mannequin of a cairn. So cairn is Capt, they're basically household troops. This is the normal military class of soldier. Generally fight, they're lightly armed skirmishers. And what is on this cairn or represented on this cairn is a kind of the generic look that you would see in a lot of the images. In his right hand, you'll see that he's carrying a short Irish fighting knife called a skin, and this is another one. This is what they look like, and these are for fast, quick fighting. And a lot of these are made from broken swords. They're basically recycled, but like the English bollock knife, they're like a utility knife that most people would carry for day-to-day activity. We were cutting branches or whatever, and or cutting throats. It's basically a utility knife. In his left hand, or his left arm, he's holding a thing called a ski, which is a shield. It's a targe. This is a wooden shield covered with the leather, and the word ski is the root word of the word scihan, which is the Irish for arm. So it's like a wing protection or flank protection. In his hand, then he's holding 5 darts or jalagi, and these are light darts that would be thrown from a distance as you're running in to attack your enemy. You throw your darts, you'd run in with your skin and your targe, and then you could attack in close. His clothing, although to the modern eye looks a little bit odd, is very, very functional. This is a thing called an unner. Unner is the Irish word for doublet. These are a short, loose doublet with open sleeves. Underneath the unner, he's wearing a léine, and a léine is the Irish word for shirt. They're often referred to as léine crook or crocus shirts because of their colour, but a lot of the time they were dyed with saffron, and there is a big trade in saffron in Ireland in the period. The shirt is extremely large. It would extend down to the ankles, like a large nightshirt. But if you're running and if you're in battle or you're walking around, what they would do is they would tie the shirt up with a belt called a kriss, which is a woven belt. Unlike the galaglass, this particular gentleman has long hair. You'll notice that the hair comes down over the face. This is called a glib. Some of them would have had a hairstyle where they would only have had a fringe in the front, like the image in the corner. And like my age group, when we were younger with long hair, your granny would be saying to you, take that glib out of your face. Well, that's what the glib is, and they were kind of frowned on. Glibs in Irish society after this period, because they were made illegal by the English to have a glib. The Macs and the O's had to be taken out of the names. Men had to shave their moustaches and beards and had to cut their hair short. And that was the way that, because the English complained that these cairn would come in and they would steal your cattle, but you couldn't identify them because they had a moustache and a beard and they had a long glib covering their face. And then when you go to find who these bandits were, you couldn't identify them because of the glib, so they made them cut their hair. So he's also wearing woolen trews or trousers, and he's wearing light leather shoes. Again, these are like based. The Irish dancing shoe today is based on these kind of what people refer to as pampooties. But what you will notice is that all the Irish men are wearing long, tight wool trousers, which makes sense. And most of the trousers would have a foot or some sort of a gore on them. The way they would either be looped around the toe, or they would actually have a full foot. And this is so. It completely covers them. It is kind of there are some written material that says that it was frowned on in Irish society to be barefoot. So we have to base what we do on that. So we put shoes on them, be they Lucas Type 5s or like the Gala Glass shoes. They're different again. So we tried to cover as many styles of Irish shoe as we could. With the three main mannequins. So we move on then to the antagonists of the story. This is an impression of an English palesman, and the English did send troops up into Ulster in the 1510s, 1520s, and that was to try and do the Tudor reconquest of Ireland. This gentleman is wearing a wool coat, he's wearing tight trousers, and he's wearing an English ordnance over tunic. These were basically like a dress, like a woolen overdress. And to mark out that he's of the English army, he's got his red George cross on. He's carrying a bill, which is their main weapon. And he's wearing, for some protection, he's wearing a skull helmet, and this is covered by a wool hat to make himself fashionable looking for the period. On his front, again, he's carrying his money around, or whatever possessions or money or wealth he has around in his purse, and in the back of that is a thing called a bollock knife. And again, this is like a short utility knife that's traditional in England and Wales. So this again is another form of Irish ring pommel sword. This is what we refer to as E-cullion. You see that the cullions are of an E shape. Now, what's interesting about these particular swords is that they appear in imagery, but there has never been, not that we're aware of, there haven't been any extant archaeological finds on these. So these really only appear in imagery. So as an archaeological find hasn't been found, we don't know if these were somebody's imagination or an interpretation of what we do know existed in the extant record of the curled cullions. So these are, again, they're quite a short sword, but we have these simply to show as a representation of what appears in images like Dahir and people like that in Germany. This is another form of gala glass axe. Now you'll notice that if we compare the two axes, one has a straight cutting edge and one has a curved cutting edge. And the English do talk about some of the gala glass axes, that they were like a leather worker's knife and as sharp. And we assume that this is we assume that this curved blade is what they're talking about in regards to a leather cutter's knife. Because if you look at a leather cutter's knife, it's a half moon shape, and they're extremely sharp. This one has a straight edge, and the overall length of the edge is usually 12 inches. But these would have probably been made locally, and they would be custom made, and so there would be a large kind of variety. But these